Welcome back to Paul's Tech News. It appears that we have reached August, everyone, if the collective pools of sweat on our gaming chairs are any indication, and we have made it past the turn so we can play out summer's back nine, a magical time of year when the heat and humidity seem truly interminable, while we also vaguely sense the mounting urgency looming as fall bears down upon us, with school and holiday planning and other frivolous endeavors meant to distract us from our own fragile mortality. But where was I? Ah yes, tech news, which features a double helping of turd burger for Intel this week with job cuts and class action lawsuits, as if things couldn't have gotten any worse for them, while AMD proceeds merrily along with their Zen 5 mobile CPUs launching, and even when they slipped in a short delay to the Ryzen 9000 desktop CPU launch, it barely registered due to the ongoing turmoil their competitor is experiencing. In short, it wasn't a good week to drop your life savings inheritance on Intel stock. I only hope that this message reaches the masses in time. For now though, tech news.
Excellent!
Today's video is brought to you by Thermaltake's EX series fans, featuring magnetic force connectors that can daisy chain fans together to simplify installation and cable management. CT120EX fans feature solid all-around performance and a touch of tasteful RGB lighting. The SwaFan EX series revolutionized case fans by adding swappable fan blades, and the ToughFan EX Pro series sports best-in-class high static pressure for use with radiators and an aggressive all-black design. And all of them feature larger magnetic force connectors for easy wiring. For more on the EX series fans from Thermaltake, click the sponsor link in the video description. Savvy investors who recognized Intel's potential and bought up stock back in the late 90s will be happy to hear that today, 25 plus years later, they can sell that stock for the same price they bought it for, thanks to a 30% dip this week after a disappointing earnings call on Thursday. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger, seen here shielding himself from criticism with a wafer of defective 14th gen CPU dies that Intel still refuses to issue a recall for, revealed a 1% revenue drop year over year in Q2 2024 during the call, and a perhaps more disappointing adjustment to Q3 projections, which are down $1 billion, signaling a dismal outlook in the near term. Perhaps even more disappointed than investors, though, would be the 15% of Intel employees who have been or will be laid off, as Team Blue focuses less on the team part and more on making money by reducing costs. Our sympathies go out to those who have been affected by the layoffs, but to be fair to Intel, the revenue dip was not caused by flagging CPU sales, despite the recent Raptor Lake snafu. The client computing group that handles CPUs reported an on-target $7.41 billion in revenue, which is up 9%. The real drag on the numbers was the data center and AI team coming in 3% below estimates, and Intel's ongoing investment in fab buildouts that will take more time to generate ROI. But this also means that the impact of the Raptor Lake CPU instability situation, which affects 13th and 14th gen CPUs to a still indeterminate degree, is not yet reflected in these numbers, and Intel has done little to stem the rising tide of frustration being felt by pissed off customers, which includes those who have directly experienced crashes and those who are simply running a 13th or 14th gen CPU and are unsure if their processor is a ticking time bomb. Intel has made some public statements now though, and they likely had their highest paid PR staff working around the clock to wordsmith their replies to a series of questions from The Verge. When asked the complicatedly obfuscatory gotcha question, will Intel issue a recall, the Intel rep carefully assuaged fears and calmed the waters of controversy with the delicately worded response, no. How refreshing. They also won't be halting sales. They have no clear plan to contact customers who are running affected CPUs. Their existing BIOS update fix is just a temporary solution until we're provided better guidance in mid-August, and they've consistently used loose, vague, and not legally binding language when talking about making sure all customers are supported in the exchange process. So Intel could reply to your email to deny your RMA, and that would count as support. I wonder how they would phrase their answer. Can I get an RMA? No. Why mince words? In the meantime, more sales data is coming out from retailers, such as a French seller whose return rates for Raptor Lake are about 4 times higher than previous generations, which is abnormal to say the least, and law firms who smell blood in the water are gearing up class action lawsuits, starting with Abington Cole plus Ellery, who specializes in intellectual property class actions. They have a landing page form for folks to fill out if your CPU isn't quite living up to Intel's legendary reputation for quality and stability. Maybe one day, years from now, 13th and 14th gen users will get like a $20 Intel Bucks gift card, and justice will finally be done. Speaking of Intel fucking things up, how about that AMD Ryzen 9000 launch? It was supposed to be this week, but AMD did a last-minute push, and now the 9600X and 9700X are coming on August 8th, while the higher core count 9900X and 9950X debut a week later on the 15th, which puts reviewers in a difficult position if they want to benchmark said Intel CPUs before the patch comes out. But we may never actually find out for sure if the Ryzen delay was caused by a defective first batch of units, or something more innocuous like a heat spreader typo, with Ryzen 9 9700X images surfacing last week as a possible explanation. How embarrassing for AMD, we would have said, if Intel hadn't spent the past week smearing their own brand with vomit and feces. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Intel's best hope for now is likely an AMD fumble with this CPU launch, but that hope is evaporating rapidly if these early price leaks are accurate. Not only are Zen 5 CPUs expected to be faster and more efficient, but they might be cheaper too. Video cards picked up on a Twitter post from momomo_US with these numbers, to be viewed with skepticism as they're not confirmed, but they were supposedly posted briefly on Best Buy and Newegg. $600 for the 9950X, $100 off the price of last gen, with a similar discount, $100 for the 9900X, as well as $40 off and $20 off the 9700X and 9600X, respectively. Not sure if this was planned or not, but AMD is clearly gunning for put-out Intel 13th and 14th gen customers with these aggressive prices. And while their desktop CPUs were pushed back a bit, AMD Zen 5 reviews did come out this week via laptops, featuring the aneurysm-inducing naming scheme Ryzen AI series. Maybe that's what the AI stands for there. That's what I'll assume, with models like the Ryzen AI 9 HX370 and Ryzen AI 9 365. Keeping in mind that these chips will be available in a wide variety of laptops and power envelopes, I'll summarize a couple reviews from Phoronix and Hardware Canucks, who tested the new Asus ZenBook S16. Phoronix ran more than 100 benchmarks on their unit with the Ryzen AI 9 HX370 and found it was about 18% faster than the previous gen Ryzen 7 7840U, while also consuming 24.5% less power on average and 33% less peak power. Quite impressive for all three metrics. Eber over at Hardware Canucks tested two units featuring the HX370 and non-HX365, with the primary difference being the iGPU, lower clock speed, and 2 fewer cores. Power consumption was great for both CPUs, only surpassed by the Apple M3. Temps were superb, which is good news for laptop users who actually put their laptop on their lap. And performance showed big gains on the Apple M3 in lightly threaded workloads, which the M3 is specifically tuned for, while the Ryzen AI 370 and 365 managed wins in thread-heavy testing with Cinebench and tasks like video transcoding with Handbrake and Blender. Gaming was actually one of the more competitive test scenarios, between Intel and AMD at least, with the Radeon 880M and 890M iGPUs generally outperforming Intel, but not by a huge margin. There's still just a few laptop models out with these new CPUs. We're expecting more around September or October, but initial reviews have fueled further excitement about handheld gaming devices that might use these mobile chips, including the Asus ROG Z13 Flow 2025, a gaming tablet powered by the Strix Halo configuration, a multi-chip design which will use two Zen 5 CCDs and feature a much larger iGPU, taking up close to 4 times the area of the Strix Point die used for the Ryzen AI 9 HX370. Okay, I've spent so much time on Intel and AMD today that it's a good thing Nvidia is keeping quiet so they can be unceremoniously and efficiently lumped into tech briefs. The US Department of Justice has launched an Nvidia antitrust investigation. It was revealed Friday because Jensen and his lackeys now command over 80% of the AI market. But is that just because they're really good at AI stuff and they got a head start? Or have they used their dominant market position to penalize or overcharge customers who would dare to transact with Nvidia's competitors? An Nvidia spokesperson seemed highly offended at the mere implication. The investigation is ongoing. In the meantime, though, while gamers await the RTX 50 series launch, a bad batch of GDDR6X VRAM has reportedly limited the supply of RTX 4070 and higher GPUs in August. Hopefully, retail pricing doesn't creep up as well, as that sure would be convenient/coincidental for Nvidia product managers who are likely looking to clear out 40 series inventory ahead of the next gen launch. If there's a silver lining to the tumultuous storm Intel is weathering right now, it is the promise of new products launching on the horizon, which seems needed for a variety of reasons. Thankfully, we have a date now, which is September 3rd, when we can expect to see Lunar Lake-based laptops showcased at an Intel launch event. Hopefully they'll actually go up for sale soon afterwards. Featuring a chiplet design, SkyMount E-cores, Xe2 GPU architecture, and a focus on efficiency for thin and light devices, Lunar Lake performance will likely be our first glimpse at what to expect when Arrow Lake launches for desktops later this year. And I'm sure Intel hopes it will be a huge distraction and smokescreen from their Raptor Lake stability problems, flagging stock price and the fact that they just laid off 15,000 plus people. Go Lunar Lake. Distract from all that stuff. Now, if you are having Intel Raptor Lake problems, or if you'd rather cut your losses and not deal with the big question mark hanging over that situation, Newegg has made the timely decision to expand their trade-in program, now accepting 12th, 13th, and 14th gen Intel Core, as well as Ryzen 7000 series CPUs. While trade-in values are a bit dubious and you can often get more in return via an eBay sale, some commenters seem okay with receiving fewer dollars back from Newegg while not having to deal with auction site commissions or after-sales support. And if the rapidly flooding used market for Intel 13th and 14th gen CPUs is any indication, this could be one of the best options to step away from Raptor Lake while minimizing your losses. Now, if only they'd let you return LGA 1700 motherboards too. Speaking of things you should opt out of, a mouse subscription. Logitech CEO Hanneke Faber pitched the idea of a $200 forever mouse that would also require a paid monthly subscription on The Verge's podcast on Monday, laying bare the stark contrast between the reality we live in and the masturbatory fever dream world inhabited by big tech CEOs. The mouse would be heavy and expensive, she says, which nobody wants, and would feature regular software updates to make sure your mouse doesn't stop working, a thing that doesn't happen. Who would even buy such a device? We'll obviously fix it and figure out what that business model is, said Faber, presumably while taking a breather before doing another line of cocaine, before adding that she'd also like to double Logitech's business and cut its carbon footprint by 50% by 2031. I actually don't mind that last one. Post-interview, she received multiple job offers to be the CEO of other companies for probably like a 50 to 100% pay increase. Speaking of inexplicable things that suck, hot on the heels of the great CrowdStrike internet outage of July 2024, Microsoft experienced a global outage that affected their Microsoft 365 and Azure services. Globally, it would seem. But this time it wasn't just incompetence that caused the problem, it was actually nefarious and targeted in nature, an attack of the DDoS variety that flooded servers and caused a 9-hour outage. Thankfully, a networking configuration change saved the day, and impacts were far less widespread than the CrowdStrike situation a couple weeks back, causing much distress in the DDoSing community. For now, in order to really cause trouble, your attack needs to at least have the same impact as that one guy from CrowdStrike who didn't QA properly. A new bar has been set. But there you have it, guys, tech news for the week, and if you liked it, click that like button or leave me a comment down below. While you're down there, all the articles I talked about today are linked in the video's description if you're interested, and you can check out my store at paulshardware.net for high-quality merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, beer sets, and more. Subscribing to my channel is always a good call too. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next week.